And welcome back to Trip to the Mound. We are the iBaseballChannel podcast, Roy Giovanoni and Mike Lacoste. So again, we had a little interesting kind of, baseball has some of those lighter side moments, and it was one that unfortunately didn't end in a light mood. But what happened yesterday? There's three things that we know for sure that happened within this scenario. One, Jonathan Papelbon comes into the Phillies-Marlins game yesterday.
Okay.
Gets booed after blowing a 3-run lead going into the ninth. As he's walking to the dugout at the end of the inning, he appears to bend down and grab his crotch, which, to baseball players can be adjusting yourselves. Or
You mean he bent at the waist?
Well,
Or
he kind
of reached down.
He kind of reached he was walking normal and then had a little moment where, when you go down there to do this, we're not going to mechanic.
Did a little.
Yeah,
He needed an adjustment.
and
It
gave
looked
him,
like he needed an adjustment, Roy.
Now that's a tough thing to see because what most of the video of what you see is from the back end. You see him walking, you see the crowd facing you, so you see him kind of bend down and adjust it. And anybody that's been a baseball player and worn an athletic supporter has been there in that moment. So then the third thing that happens, Joe West, the umpire, walks over from first base.
You mean Cowboy Joe West?
Cowboy Joe West walks
All right.
over from his first base umping position, walks over to the dugout and tells Papelbon he's been thrown out of the game.
Boy, that's surprising.
Yeah.
Real shocking.
And again, I mean, this was a thing where Papelbon probably wasn't going to come back into the game given how long of an inning he just had anyways. But Papelbon then loses it, storms out of the dugout, confronts him face to face. And within this little kind of this heated discussion between the two guys, Papelbon bumps West in the hat, kind of tips it back a little bit. But what West does, which I find even more interesting, is then he puts his hand on Papelbon's jersey to kind of usher him out. I mean, it's one of those things where grabs him right there, which to me, if a player does that to an ump, they're sitting for probably about a week. So Mike, the question here is anything going to happen to Joe West for this little incident?
It better happen. Because, well, first of all, aside from all of the produced baseball content that you and I do, Roy, aside from that, that we've had probably an additional 2,000 or more conversations of all topics. And you do recall that some of the topics are about umpires, and in fact, there have been some Cowboy Joe West talks in the past without anything happening, right?
Yep.
Okay. So when I was being sarcastic when I meant, shocking, but no, just the opposite is, no, that does not surprise me because Joe West was an umpire when I played. Okay. And during a time where, I got to tell you, strike zones really wandered, all kinds of things happened. Umpires were caught doing this and caught doing that and prosecuted for doing this. They come from all walks of life like everybody else, and they're not all Yale graduates, marching to a straight tune here.
Yeah,
they're people just like everybody else, and so they produced good and bad too. And there are good and bad umpires. I don't care what people say. Just because they're in the big leagues, there's bad umpires in there. And Joe West has consistently shown over his entire career that he's always been at the helm, Scotty, of a lot of controversy. People getting tossed, arguments, bad arguments. I believe Joe West has been suspended I know for a fact he's been suspended at least one time in his career. And what that means is the league came in and said, okay, Joe, you can't be kicking somebody out every night. Because that's what happened. It got to the point where players were tired of it and they were fighting back at him. And he was just running people 2, 3, 4, running the whole team. I wanted to see him one night. We even talked about it. We talked about having our entire team to see if he would actually throw our whole team out one night. He probably would have.
Yeah.
He's that kind of a guy that's out there. He at times has this miserable look on his face, like he doesn't even you're troubling him. He doesn't want to be out there. You have no right to even criticize him. He doesn't make mistakes, this and that. I've seen him turn it around, though. I've seen him be this real nice guy for periods of time. I've seen him be an excellent ball and strike umpire behind home plate. I really have. I've seen him make some great calls on the bases. But then again, these things that keep popping up all the time, and so now you have I didn't see it. I wish I'd seen it. I'm going to look for it now.
Yeah.
No, I can tell you just by what you're saying that first of all, he's got no right to run a guy like that. Gestures or not, that's to be handled by the club and by the league. He doesn't have, as long as those gestures or names or anything like that were not directed toward him or any of the other umpires, he's got no business kicking him out of that game. And then for him to grab like that, and I didn't see the whole thing, I'm going to make a call right now. A call, not to the Hall, but I'm going to make a prediction that Joe West will be disciplined, and he may not umpire again.
Yeah,
I think it's that over the line, over the top type of stuff that I think it's just uncalled for.
Yeah, I mean, again, the shirt grab is one of those things that's in a quick moment where West after was saying, I was trying to tell him to get out of there at that point. Whether you're trying to convey that or not, the minute you lay your hands on a player like that, again, somebody, if one
player, the player can't touch him either.
No.
Automatic, 7 games or whatever they're going to do. If you touch an umpire, it's like you pulled a gun on a judge in a courtroom.
Yeah. Well, and moreover, again, you're talking about a guy adjusting in the area of where he wears an athletic supporter and cup. Anybody that's ever strapped one on knows that at one time or another, you have to readjust it. You are moving, you are bending, you are doing...
You're standing at home plate, nobody'd say a word about it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, exactly.
If you walk off the back of the mound and turn towards center field to do it, nobody's going to say much about it.
Yeah. There's that great scene in the movie The Naked Gun where they show the guy he's coming up to bat in the baseball game, and then all of a sudden everybody on the baseball field is grabbing their crotch and spitting tobacco out, and they're all doing it one after another to paint this big parody to say, this is so far and wide in baseball, we're making a joke out of it.
It's so far and wide that Roseanne sang the national anthem and then did it in front of a crowd in San Diego.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I mean, it's tough to see, and of course there's a picture, and I believe this is the thing that made its way onto the Philly paper this morning, where you see in that moment the way that you snap it to see him doing it is that Papelbon looks like he's looking towards the crowd, and of course they have the
Maybe
moment
he
where
did.
he's got, but again,
so what?
That's the thing
that's the risk he takes, because the fans in Philly are brutal.
Yes, they are.
And if he wants to take that risk, if he's at the end of his contract, he's going to go somewhere else. Why does he doesn't care. They've had a terrible season. He came over there to do this and do that, and then the Philly fans, boy, I'm telling you, boy, they're brutal.
Yeah,
brutal, just as bad as New York. And so what if he did it? It doesn't give Joe West or any other umpire a reason to even get involved.